Whisper of the Heart, Part 1, Flickering Flames. The soft crackle of the fireplace filled the cozy room, casting flickering shadows on the old stone walls. Two people sat side by side in comfortable silence, each holding a glass of wine, their hands almost but not quite touching on the armrest of the sofa. Alice Hartley, a woman of 50, had the kind of quiet grace that comes with years of both joy and sorrow. Her emerald eyes reflected the warmth of the flames, hinting at a history of longing and unsaid words. Beside her was Jack Morgan, a rugged man in his mid-50s with salt and pepper hair and a gaze that always seemed distant, as if he was constantly weighing the world around him. They had been friends for years, no more, no less, but lately, something had shifted. Tonight, the conversation danced dangerously close to a topic neither of them had dared broach before.
You know, Jack, I've been thinking, people always talk about how love in your 20s feels like fire, wild, uncontrollable. But they never really tell you what happens when that fire becomes something else, do they?
No, they don't. Maybe it's because we're not supposed to think about it. We're all expected to believe that love only belongs to the young, that once the fire fades, what's left isn't worth much.
But it's still there, isn't it? The fire, maybe it doesn't burn as bright, but it's not gone. It's just different. Question: do you think love changes over time, or do we just stop looking for the same things? A. Love changes. It evolves into something deeper, more meaningful. B. We stop looking for the passion, and instead we settle for comfort. C. Love never really changes. It's always just as wild. We just stop recognizing it.
Answer A. Love changes. It evolves into something deeper, more meaningful. Love, in the beginning, is all heat and intensity. It's easy to get lost in the rush. But over time, that changes. It doesn't fade. It just becomes more steady. Like the fire here, it still gives warmth, but it's not trying to consume everything in its path. It's about understanding, about knowing someone so well that words aren't always necessary. The fire's still there, just quieter, but no less important.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like we spend so much of our younger years chasing that wild fire, but we don't realize that the warmth we need comes from something more enduring, something that lasts. But do you ever miss that wildness, the thrill of the unknown?
The room was quiet except for the steady crackling of the fire. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows, the world beyond fading into the dark. Jack swirled the wine in his glass, contemplating her question.
Sometimes. I think we all do, don't we? There's a part of me that remembers what it felt like to be reckless with love, to not care about the consequences. But now it's more about stability, about knowing that the person sitting beside you isn't going anywhere. There's a comfort in that, a kind of peace that youth can't give.
Peace, yes, but peace can sometimes feel lonely, can it? Question: do you think we sacrifice passion for peace as we get older? A. Yes, we choose peace over passion because it's safer. B. No, there's room for both. We just find different ways to express it. C. It's not about sacrifice, it's about learning what truly matters.
Answer B. No, there's room for both. We just find different ways to express it. I don't think we have to give up passion just because we've found peace. It's still there, but it shows up in different ways. Maybe it's not about grand gestures anymore, but it's in the little things, like remembering how you like your coffee or the way you smile when you hear your favorite song. Passion doesn't have to be wild to be real. It's in the details, the quiet moments.
I suppose you're right. Passion now is more about the small things, the things that last. It's not about rushing into love, but about finding someone who understands the rhythm of your life and fitting into it. But Jack, do you ever think we lose something when we stop chasing that thrill, when we stop believing that love can still surprise us?
I think love surprises us in ways we don't expect anymore. Maybe we stop looking for the big moments because we're too focused on the everyday. But every once in a while, something reminds you that love can still catch you off guard, even now.
The rain had picked up outside, the soft patter turning into a steady downpour. Jack shifted on the couch, his hand brushing lightly against Alice's. It was a brief touch, but enough to make her heart skip for just a moment, a reminder that some things, even in their quietest form, still had the power to surprise.
I think I'd like that, to be surprised again, to believe that even now love could still feel new. Question: do you think we ever stop wanting to feel that spark, no matter how old we get? A. Yes, eventually we stop wanting it and just settle for what we have. B. No. That spark is something we never outgrow, even if we don't admit it. C. We don't stop wanting it, but we learn that love isn't just about sparks.
Answer C. We don't stop wanting it, but we learn that love isn't just about sparks. I don't think we ever stop wanting that feeling. That spark, the thrill, it's human. But we also learn that love can't survive on sparks alone. It needs something more solid, more reliable. It's about finding a balance. Maybe we don't get the same kind of rush, but what we do get is something deeper, something that lasts.
I think you're right. Love now isn't about the rush, but about finding someone who understands the quiet spaces in your heart. But even so, I think part of me will always crave that little spark, that reminder that love, even now, can still surprise us.
The fire had burned low, casting a softer glow over the room. Jack turned to Alice, his expression unreadable for a moment before he spoke again.
Maybe that's what this is. Maybe we've been sitting here, waiting for a spark we didn't even realize was still there.
Maybe.
The rain continued to fall outside, but inside, the world had grown still. The flickering flames seemed to mirror the delicate tension between them, a reminder that even in the calmest of moments, love could still burn quietly and steadily. And so, with the fire dying down to embers and the rain tapping softly at the windows, Alice and Jack sat together, their unspoken connection flickering between them like the last sparks of a fire that had never truly gone out. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart. Part 1. Flickering Flames.
Endurance, the quality that sustains love beyond the initial spark, helping it last through life's trials. Trust, a fundamental part of fidelity, built through shared experiences and understanding over time.
Intimacy, the closeness that develops when two people truly understand and accept each other. Stability, what mature love provides, a foundation of peace and security, far from the chaos of youthful passion.
Commitment, the unspoken promise that remains strong, ensuring the bond endures, even without grand gestures.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 2, Echoes of Yesterday. The rain had continued through the night, but by morning, the clouds had begun to break, leaving a delicate mist over the small town. Alice stood by the window, watching as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the droplets clinging to the glass. The air smelled fresh, clean, like the promise of a new beginning. Yet there was something lingering in her mind, an echo from the night before. Jack's words had stirred something within her, something she hadn't felt in years. She heard the familiar sound of footsteps approaching from behind her. Jack entered the room, his expression as thoughtful as ever. The easy silence between them had returned, but the air felt heavier today, charged with the things left unsaid. As he joined her by the window, their eyes met for a brief moment, and for the first time, the weight of years between them seemed to dissolve.
"You're quiet this morning. Still thinking about last night?"
Yes, I suppose I am. It's strange, isn't it? How one conversation can make you start to see things differently, like it stirred something up that I thought had settled long ago.
Sometimes things don't settle as much as we think they do. They just wait until we're ready to face them.
Maybe. Or maybe we just keep ourselves too busy to notice what's been there all along. Question: do you believe that the past ever truly leaves us, or do we carry it with us, even when we think we've moved on? A. We carry the past with us, whether we acknowledge it or not. B. The past can fade, but only if we actively choose to let it go. C. It's not the past that lingers, but the memories we cling to.
Answer A. We carry the past with us, whether we acknowledge it or not. I think the past never really leaves us. It shapes us, molds us into who we are, even if we think we've moved on. We carry it with us in our choices, our fears, our hesitations. It's not about letting it go, but learning to live with it, making peace with what was, and using it to guide us forward.
Yes, I think you're right. It's like, no matter how much time passes, there are certain memories that still linger, certain feelings that never quite fade. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things had been different for us, if we had met sooner?
I've thought about it. Sometimes I wonder if it would have changed anything. Maybe we weren't ready back then. Maybe we had to go through everything we did before to end up here.
Here, now, after all this time. But isn't it strange to think that we might have crossed paths 1,000 times and never really noticed that the timing was always just a little off?
The room grew quiet again, the only sound the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall. Outside, the mist had begun to lift, revealing the world beyond, fresh, bright, as if untouched by the years of memories that still weighed heavy inside. Alice set her glass down and turned to Jack, a question forming on her lips, though she hesitated to ask it.
Do you ever think about the choices we didn't make, the lives we didn't live? Question: do you believe that our lives are shaped more by the choices we make or by the ones we don't? A. The choices we make define us, but the ones we don't can haunt us. B. It's the unmade choices that shape us more by showing us what we could have been. C. Every choice matters, but it's the ones we make that lead us to who we are.
Answer: C. Every choice matters, but it's the ones we make that lead us to who we are. I think every choice, made or unmade, leaves a mark, but in the end, it's the ones we act on that shape the course of our lives. We could spend forever wondering about what might have been, but it's what we do, what we choose to do, that defines who we become. The rest is just echoes of yesterday.
Echoes of yesterday. That's a good way to put it. I guess it's easy to get lost in the what-ifs, but maybe you're right. Maybe we're exactly where we're supposed to be because of the choices we made, not in spite of them.
The day outside was growing brighter, the last of the mist fading into the blue sky. Jack moved away from the window and stood by the fireplace, his eyes distant as though he was considering something he hadn't thought about in years. Alice could feel the shift in his mood, the tension rising between them once again.
Jack, if you had the chance to go back, to make a different choice, would you?
I don't know. It's easy to say we'd change something, that we'd do things differently, but would we, or would we just end up right back where we started, with the same regrets, the same hopes? Maybe it's not about changing the past, but learning to accept it, to find peace with it.
And what about the future? Do you think we still have time to change things, to make new choices? Question: do you believe it's ever too late to change the course of your life, to make a new choice? A. It's never too late. Every day is a new chance to start over. B. Some choices are final, and once made, they can't be undone. C. It depends on the choice. Some paths can be altered, but others are set in stone.
Answer A. It's never too late. Every day is a new chance to start over. I don't think it's ever too late. We like to think we're stuck, that we've made our bed and now we have to lie in it, but that's not true. As long as we're still breathing, we have a chance to change things. Maybe not everything, but enough to make a difference.
I think you're right. Maybe it's not about looking back anymore. Maybe it's about finding the courage to move forward, to make a choice, even now, that could change everything.
The day had fully dawned now, the light streaming into the room through the wide windows. The world outside seemed to pulse with possibility, with the promise of new beginnings. Alice and Jack stood together, the weight of the past still present, but somehow lighter now, less a burden, more a reminder that there was still time, still room for change.
So, what do we do now?
I guess that depends on what we choose next.
They exchanged a glance that spoke more than words ever could, a silent acknowledgement that the future was still unwritten, that there was still a spark left, however faint, waiting to be reignited. The moment lingered between them, fragile but full of promise. And so, with the echoes of yesterday slowly fading, Alice and Jack stood side by side, ready to step into whatever tomorrow might bring, together. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart. Part 2. Echoes of Yesterday.
Reflection. The process of looking back on past choices and understanding their impact. Possibility. The belief that change is always possible, even after many years.
Regret. The lingering feeling that certain choices, once past, cannot be undone. Courage. The strength to face the past and make new choices for the future.
Renewal. The idea that love, like life, can be renewed even after time and distance.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 3. Crossroads of Tomorrow. The sun was higher in the sky now, casting soft golden light through the windows of Alice's cozy home. The warmth of the day had settled into the room, yet a quiet tension lingered between Alice and Jack, left over from the weight of their conversation. As the morning unfolded, Alice busied herself in the kitchen, her hands moving mechanically through the motions of brewing coffee, but her mind was far away, lost in the unspoken words hanging between them. Jack sat at the small dining table, watching her. The silence, once comfortable, now felt charged, as if they both knew something needed to be said.
Alice, about what we talked about last night, and this morning, I've been thinking. You asked if it's ever too late to change things. What if we're standing at one of those crossroads right now?
A crossroads? You mean like a point where we have to make a choice about us?
Yeah, about us, about where this goes from here. I can feel it, can't you? That shift. Like we're both standing on the edge of something, but neither of us knows what's on the other side.
I feel it too. It's like we've been walking this line for years, never stepping over it. But now it feels like there's no turning back, doesn't it? Question: do you think we're ready for whatever's on the other side of that choice? A. Yes, sometimes you have to take the leap and trust that you'll land on your feet. B. No, not yet. Some things need more time to settle before we decide. C. Maybe. It depends on what we're willing to risk to find out.
Answer C. Maybe. It depends on what we're willing to risk to find out. I don't know if anyone's ever truly ready, but I think it's about what we're willing to put on the line. Every choice comes with a risk, and the bigger the choice, the bigger the risk. It's about whether we're ready to face whatever might come next, knowing that it could change everything, for better or for worse.
And what do you think we're risking, Jack? What's on the line for us here?
Everything, I guess. Our friendship, the way things are now. But also, the chance to find out if there's more than we've allowed ourselves to imagine.
The coffee sat untouched between them, the steam rising lazily from the cups. The morning outside was quiet, the distant hum of life beyond Alice's home seeming to fade into the background as they both sat, lost in thought. Neither wanted to be the first to speak, but the weight of their unsaid emotions pressed in, demanding to be acknowledged.
Do you think we've been holding back because we're afraid of losing what we already have? Or is it because we don't believe we deserve more? Question: do you think fear or doubt holds us back more when it comes to love? A. Fear. We're afraid of losing what we already have. B. Doubt. We don't believe we deserve more than what we've settled for. C. Both. Fear and doubt are two sides of the same coin when it comes to love.
Answer A. Fear. We're afraid of losing what we already have. I think it's fear more than anything else. We've gotten so comfortable with what we have that the idea of losing it terrifies us. We tell ourselves it's enough, that we don't need more, because the risk of reaching for something bigger might mean losing everything. And that's scary, too scary sometimes.
I've been scared too. Scared that if we crossed that line, if we tried for something more, and it didn't work out, we'd ruin everything. But now I'm starting to wonder, what if we're not giving ourselves enough credit? What if we're stronger than we think?
A bird's song floated in through the open window, momentarily breaking the tension between them. Alice stood up, moving toward the window, letting the breeze cool her heated thoughts. Jack remained seated, watching her with an intensity she hadn't seen before. The moment felt fragile, like it could break apart at any second, or solidify into something real.
Do you think that after all these years, we've been waiting for permission, from ourselves or from each other, to take that risk?
Maybe. Maybe we've been waiting for a sign, something to tell us that it's okay to take the leap. But maybe the only sign we need is right here, right now.
And what do you think we should do? Should we take that leap, or are we still waiting for something else? Question: do you believe in signs, or do we make our own choices, regardless of what the world tells us? A. I believe in signs. They help guide us when we're unsure. B. I think we make our own choices, and we have to take responsibility for them. C. I believe in both. Sometimes the world gives us hints, but we still have to choose.
Answer C. I believe in both. Sometimes the world gives us hints, but we still have to choose. I think the world gives us little nudges sometimes, small signs that point us in the right direction. But at the end of the day, the choice is still ours. We can follow the signs or we can ignore them. But whatever we do, we have to own that choice. No one else can make it for us.
I think I've spent so much time looking for signs that I forgot the choice was mine all along. Maybe the only thing that's been holding us back is our own hesitation, our own fear of making the wrong move. But what if we're already standing at that crossroads and we just haven't realized it?
The room felt warmer now, the tension easing as the conversation deepened. Jack stood up, moving toward Alice, his footsteps deliberate but unhurried. They stood by the window together, the morning light casting long shadows across the room. Everything felt clearer now, sharper, as if the weight of their uncertainty had begun to lift.
Maybe we don't need a sign anymore. Maybe the fact that we're having this conversation is enough. We've already come this far, Alice. Maybe it's time to stop hesitating.
And what happens if we fall, Jack? What if we take that leap and we don't land on our feet?
Then we catch each other. Isn't that what we've always done?
I think I'm ready to find out.
So am I.
And with that, the crossroads they had been standing at for years finally disappeared, replaced by a single path, one they would walk together, come what may. And so, at the crossroads of tomorrow, Alice and Jack chose not to turn back, but to step forward, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future held together. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart, Part 3, Crossroads of Tomorrow.
Risk, the vulnerability that comes with opening oneself up to the possibility of both loss and reward in love. Choice, the pivotal moment when one decides to act, shaping the course of a relationship.
Hesitation, the pause before taking a leap, driven by fear of the unknown. Leap, the bold step into the future, embracing the uncertainty and potential of love.
Trust, the belief that no matter the outcome, there is someone there to catch you when you fall.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 4, Bound by Time. The weeks passed like pages turning in a well-worn book, each one filled with the quiet rhythm of daily life, but now underscored by the unspoken bond between Alice and Jack. Ever since that morning, when they had stood together at the crossroads, things had felt different. Not in any grand, sweeping way, but in the subtle shifts that marked the beginning of something new. They didn't talk about it much, but it was there, in the way Jack would linger a little longer when they said goodbye, or the way Alice's gaze would soften when she caught him watching her. One afternoon, as autumn began to paint the trees in hues of gold and crimson, they found themselves walking along the path in the park. It was the same path they had walked countless times before, but today it felt like the world had shifted, and everything seemed touched by the fleeting beauty of the season. The wind stirred gently through the trees, carrying with it the crisp scent of fallen leaves and the faintest whisper of the winter to come.
It's funny how time works, isn't it? 1 minute it feels like everything's moving so slowly, like nothing's ever going to change, and then, before you know it, the leaves are falling and another season has passed.
Yes, time is strange that way. Sometimes it feels like we have all the time in the world, and other times it feels like we're running out of it. Do you ever think about that, Jack? About how much time we have left?
More than I used to. Maybe that's what happens when you start caring about someone again. Time starts to matter in a way it didn't before.
Question: do you think love makes us more aware of time, or does it help us forget about it? A. Love makes us more aware of time because we start to fear losing it. B. Love helps us forget about time because it makes us live in the moment. C. Both. Love makes us value time more, but it also helps us escape from it.
Answer C. Both. Love makes us value time more, but it also helps us escape from it. I think love does both. It makes you realize how precious time is, because you start to worry about losing the moments you have. But at the same time, when you're with someone you care about, time seems to slip away, like it doesn't matter anymore, because all that matters is the moment you're in.
Yes, that's it exactly. It's like time becomes both more important and less important all at once. Maybe that's the magic of it. But does that scare you, knowing that time is always moving, always slipping away?
They continued walking, the crunch of leaves beneath their feet the only sound for a moment. The park was quiet, the usual hum of the city beyond muted by the stillness of the season. Jack's steps slowed as he considered her question, his hands slipping into his pockets as if he was searching for the right words.
I think it scares everyone, doesn't it? The idea that no matter what we do, time keeps moving. But I also think that's why we have to hold on to the things that matter. We can't stop time, but we can make the most of what we have. And right now, this feels like something worth holding on to.
It does, but sometimes I wonder, what if we're too late? What if we've already missed too much time, and now there's not enough left for us? Question: do you believe it's possible to make up for lost time, or is it something we can never get back? A. No, lost time is gone forever, and we have to live with that. B. Yes, we can make up for lost time by creating new memories. C. We can't get time back, but we can make what's left count.
Answer C. We can't get time back, but we can make what's left count. I don't think we can ever get back the time we've lost. That's just how life works. But I also think that doesn't mean it's too late. We can't go back, but we can choose how we spend the time we have now. That's what matters, what we do with the time that's still ahead of us.
You're right. It's not about what's behind us anymore, is it? It's about what's in front of us and what we decide to do with it. I guess I've spent too much time thinking about the past, about what might have been, instead of focusing on what could still be.
The late afternoon sun was starting to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park. They walked in silence for a while, the weight of the conversation settling between them. But there was also a sense of peace, like the decision had already been made, even if they hadn't spoken it aloud yet. They reached the edge of the park, where the path split in two directions. Without hesitation, Alice turned to face Jack, her eyes searching his.
Jack, do you think we've been given this time together for a reason? Do you think this is our second chance to get it right?
I do. I think maybe we were always meant to find our way here, even if it took longer than we expected. But now that we're here, it's up to us what we do with it.
Question: Do you believe in second chances, or do you think we only get one shot at love? A. Yes, I believe in second chances. Sometimes love finds us when we're ready for it. B. No, we only get one real shot, and after that, it's too late. C. I think love gives us as many chances as we're brave enough to take.
Answer A. Yes, I believe in second chances. Sometimes love finds us when we're ready for it. I believe in second chances. Life doesn't always go the way we plan, and sometimes we're not ready for love the first time it comes around. But that doesn't mean it won't come again. When we've learned what we need to learn, when we're finally ready. I think this is our second chance, Alice, and this time I'm ready.
I think I am too.
The sun was setting now, casting the park in a warm, golden glow. The path ahead of them stretched out, uncertain and full of possibilities. But for the first time, neither of them felt afraid of what was to come. They had found their way back to each other, and now, with the time they had left, they would make the most of it together.
So, what do you say? Should we make this time count?
Yes, let's make it count.
They smiled at each other, the weight of the past finally lifting as they stepped forward, side by side, ready to face whatever the future held. And so, as the sun set on another day, Alice and Jack walked forward, bound by the time they had left, but no longer afraid of losing it, ready to embrace whatever came next, together. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart, Part 4, Bound by Time.
Patience. The understanding that sometimes love takes time to unfold, and waiting for the right moment is necessary. Reconciliation. The process of coming to terms with past mistakes and finding peace in the present.
Resilience. The strength to endure the trials of life and love, and to keep moving forward despite them. Gratitude. The appreciation for the time and love that remain, even when the past is filled with regret.
Possibility. The hope that the future still holds opportunities for love, no matter how much time has passed.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 5, The Quiet Flame. The chill of winter had finally settled in, blanketing the town in soft, silvery frost. Inside Alice's home, a fire crackled warmly in the hearth, casting a soft, flickering glow that illuminated the room. The quiet hum of a life shared had taken root over the past few months, filling the spaces between Alice and Jack with a calm, steady rhythm. Their bond had deepened, not through grand gestures or dramatic revelations, but in the small, everyday moments they had learned to cherish. That evening, as the fire burned low and the outside world was shrouded in darkness, they sat together at the dining table, a bottle of red wine half empty between them. The air was filled with an unspoken contentment, yet both of them knew there was still one last conversation they had been avoiding, one final step to truly move forward.
It's strange, isn't it, how quickly time moves when you stop counting the days. It feels like yesterday we were walking through the park, talking about second chances, and now, here we are.
Yeah, it's like the world slowed down for a while, and we were just living in it, together. But I guess that's what happens when you stop worrying about what's next. You just start living.
Jack, do you ever think about the future, about what comes next for us?
I do. A lot, actually. I've been thinking about what it means to build a future together. At this point in our lives, it's different, isn't it? We're not starting from scratch like people do when they're younger. We've got years behind us, and not as many ahead of us, but I still think there's a future here, don't you?
Question: do you believe we can build something lasting even when we start later in life? A. Yes, it's never too late to build something real and lasting. B. No, the time we've lost makes it hard to create something that will last. C. It depends on how much we're willing to invest in each other, despite the time that's passed.
Answer A. Yes, it's never too late to build something real and lasting. I think it's never too late. Just because we're not starting out young doesn't mean we can't build something that lasts. Maybe it looks different than what we thought it would be when we were younger, but that doesn't make it any less meaningful. It's about what we choose to do with the time we have now, and I believe that can still be something real, something lasting.
I want to believe that too, and I think I do. But sometimes I wonder if we've built our lives in such a way that starting over now feels impossible. We're so set in our ways, in our routines. How do we fit into each other's lives after all this time?
The fire crackled, filling the brief silence that fell between them. Outside, the wind howled softly, its presence felt but distant. Jack took a long sip of his wine, his gaze drifting to the flames as he considered her words.
I think it's less about starting over and more about finding where we fit now. We don't have to erase what we've built on our own. It's about finding a way to blend what we have, our pasts, our lives, into something new. We don't have to give up who we are. We just have to make space for each other.
That makes sense. It's like we're not trying to replace anything, but adding to what's already there. But even then, Jack, do you ever feel like time is slipping away? Like no matter what we do, there's never enough time left?
Of course. Time's always slipping away, but that's why we have to make the most of it. It's not about how much time we have left, it's about what we do with it. And I'd rather spend that time with you, no matter how much or how little there is.
Question: do you think we should focus on the time we have left, or should we just live in the moment? A. We should live in the moment. It's the only way to truly appreciate life. B. We should focus on the future to make sure we don't waste the time we have left. C. It's about balance, living in the moment while still being mindful of the time we have left.
Answer C. It's about balance, living in the moment while still being mindful of the time we have left. I think it's a balance. We need to appreciate the moments as they come, without letting the fear of time slipping away consume us. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of the future to make sure we're building something meaningful with the time we have. It's about finding that balance, living for today, but planning for tomorrow.
I like that. Living for today, but not losing sight of tomorrow. Maybe that's the secret to finding peace, isn't it? Not worrying about what's already gone or what's yet to come, but just being here with each other right now.
The room seemed to grow warmer, the fire crackling gently in the hearth. Jack reached across the table, taking Alice's hand in his, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. Outside, the wind continued to blow, but inside, everything felt still, timeless, as if for that moment, they had all the time in the world.
We've spent enough time worrying about the past and about what we've lost. Maybe it's time to stop counting the days and just live together.
I think you're right. We've been given this time, and no matter how much or how little of it there is, I want to spend it with you. No more waiting, no more holding back. Question: do you believe that love at this stage in life is more about companionship or passion? A. Companionship. It's about having someone by your side through everything. B. Passion. Love should still burn bright, even later in life. C. Both. Passion may change, but it's still there, rooted in companionship.
Answer C. Both. Passion may change, but it's still there, rooted in companionship. I think it's both. The passion we knew when we were younger may not be the same now, but that doesn't mean it's gone. It's just changed. It's quieter, but it's still there, rooted in the companionship we've built. Love isn't about choosing one or the other. It's about finding both, even when the fire burns softer.
That's what I feel too. The passion hasn't gone, it's just changed. And I think that makes it even more meaningful now, because it's not just about the spark. It's about the fire that's lasted all this time, quietly burning, even when we didn't realize it.
The fire had burned low, its flames flickering gently as the night deepened. Outside, the wind had calmed, leaving the world in peaceful silence. Alice and Jack sat together, their hands intertwined, their connection stronger than ever. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, neither of them felt afraid. They had found their balance between passion and companionship, between the present and the future, and now they would face whatever came next, together.
So, what do you think? Are we ready for this next chapter?
Yes, I think we are.
The flames flickered once more, casting a warm glow over the room, as Alice and Jack sat in comfortable silence, knowing that whatever time they had left, they would spend it together, bound not by the past, but by the quiet flame of the love they had found. And so, by the quiet flame of the fire, Alice and Jack embraced the time they had left, knowing that love, even in its quietest form, could still burn strong and true. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart. Part 5, The Quiet Flame.
Serenity. The calm and peace that comes from accepting love as it is, without the rush or pressure of time. Continuity. The idea that love, like life, carries on and evolves, no matter where or when it begins.
Adaptation. The understanding that love changes form over time, but remains just as meaningful. Fulfillment. the satisfaction of knowing that love, even when quiet, can still fill the heart completely.
Presence. The importance of being fully in the moment, appreciating the now without worrying about the past or the future.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 6, Unspoken Truths. Winter deepened, settling over the town like a thick blanket of snow. The days grew shorter, and the nights longer, filled with the comforting warmth of the hearth and the quiet companionship Alice and Jack had come to cherish. They had settled into a rhythm now, one that seemed both effortless and inevitable. There was a sense of peace in the air, but beneath it, something lingered, an unspoken truth they had both been avoiding. One cold evening, as the snow fell softly outside, Alice sat by the fire, a blanket draped over her lap. Jack was seated across from her, his gaze distant, the flickering flames reflected in his eyes. They had grown comfortable in their silence, but tonight felt different. The air seemed heavier, weighed down by something neither had dared to say out loud, though they both felt it. The future they had once feared was now upon them.
Jack, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. It's been on my mind for a while, but I wasn't sure how to bring it up.
You can ask me anything, Alice. You know that.
Do you ever think about what happens next? I mean, we've spent all this time talking about living in the moment, about making the most of the time we have left. But what happens when the time runs out?
I've thought about it. A lot, actually. It's hard not to. We've built something beautiful together, but there's no escaping the fact that time is always moving forward, and eventually, one of us will have to face that.
Question: do you believe we should talk about the end, or is it better to focus on living without thinking about it? A. Yes, we should talk about it. It's part of life, and we shouldn't avoid it. B. No, it's better to focus on living and not dwell on what we can't control. C. It depends. Sometimes it's necessary, but we shouldn't let it overshadow our time together.
Answer A. Yes, we should talk about it. It's part of life, and we shouldn't avoid it. I think we have to talk about it. Pretending it isn't there won't make it go away. The end is part of life, and if we're going to build something real together, we have to be willing to face all of it, including the parts we don't want to think about. It's not about being afraid. It's about being prepared. So when the time comes, we know we've said what needs to be said.
You're right. It's easy to pretend it's not something we need to worry about, but the truth is, it's always there, isn't it? I've been afraid to bring it up because I didn't want to ruin the peace we've found. But maybe talking about it will give us more peace in the end.
The fire crackled softly, the light flickering across their faces. The snow outside had begun to fall more heavily, and the world beyond the windows was quiet, as if waiting for their next words. Alice set her book aside and moved closer to Jack, her expression more serious than he had seen in some time.
I've been thinking a lot about what I want, about how I want to spend the rest of my time. And I don't mean to be morbid, but I think we need to have a plan, don't you? So we don't leave things unsaid or unfinished.
I agree. We need to talk about it, not just for us, but for the people we care about. If we don't face it now, it'll be harder later. And I don't want to leave anything unsaid, Alice. Not between us.
Question: do you believe that making plans for the end can bring peace, or does it make it harder to live in the moment? A. Making plans brings peace. It helps us feel more prepared for the inevitable. B. It makes it harder to live in the moment because we're focusing on something sad. C. Both. It brings peace, but it's difficult to balance that with living fully.
Answer C. Both. It brings peace, but it's difficult to balance that with living fully. I think it's both. Making plans brings peace because it helps us feel like we're in control of something that's otherwise out of our hands. But at the same time, it can be hard to focus on the present when we're always thinking about the end. It's about finding that balance, preparing for what's coming, but still living fully in the time we have.
I think we've always been good at finding balance, haven't we? Even when things felt impossible, we found a way through. I suppose this is just another step in that. But Jack, how do we find the courage to face it? How do we make peace with the fact that no matter what, time always wins?
The fire began to burn lower, casting the room in a dim, golden glow. Jack leaned back in his chair, his face illuminated by the last flickers of the flames. Outside, the snow had piled up, a thick, unbroken blanket over the earth, as if the world had paused for just a moment.
I think we make peace by accepting that it's not about how much time we have, but about what we do with it. We've spent too long worrying about time, about whether we had enough of it. But in the end, it's not the time that matters. It's the moments, the memories, and those are ours to keep, no matter what.
You're right. It's not about the years, is it? It's about the moments that stay with us, the love that lasts even when the time runs out. Maybe that's the secret, knowing that love doesn't end when the clock stops ticking. It stays with us, even after everything else fades. Question: do you believe that love can outlast time, or does time always win in the end? A. Love can outlast time. It's the one thing that never fades. B. Time wins in the end, but love makes it easier to bear. C. Love and time are intertwined. Neither can outlast the other, but together they give meaning.
Answer A. Love can outlast time. It's the one thing that never fades. I believe that love can outlast time. It's the one thing that's stronger than the years, than the minutes ticking by. Even when time runs out, the love we've shared, the moments we've had, that stays. It's what makes life worth living, and what makes the end a little easier to face.
I think I've always believed that too. Maybe that's why I'm not so afraid anymore. Because I know that whatever happens, whatever time we have left, we'll still have this. We'll still have each other.
The fire had burned down to embers, the last warmth of the evening lingering in the air. Outside, the snow continued to fall, quiet and peaceful, as if the world had slowed to a gentle hush. Alice and Jack sat together in the dim light, their hands clasped tightly, their unspoken truths now shared between them. The future, once full of uncertainty, now seemed less frightening. Together, they had found peace, not in the endlessness of time, but in the love that would outlast it.
So, no more avoiding the tough conversations?
No more avoiding. We've got nothing to be afraid of now.
They smiled at each other. The weight of the unspoken finally lifted. The night grew deeper, but inside the warmth remained, steady and constant, like the quiet flame of their love, still burning brightly despite the passage of time. And so, in the quiet of the night, Alice and Jack found peace not in the endlessness of time, but in the love they knew would outlast it, holding each other close as the snow fell softly outside. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart, Part 6, Unspoken Truths.
Acceptance, the calm that comes from embracing the realities of life, love, and time. Closure, the sense of resolution that comes from facing the end with honesty and courage.
Legacy, the love and memories that remain even after time has run out. Continuity, the belief that love, once shared, carries on beyond time.
Vulnerability, the openness required to confront the hardest truths with the person you love.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 7, The Fragile Tomorrow. Winter's deep chill lingered, but the snow had stopped falling. In Alice's home, the fire crackled softly as the evening settled in. Over the past few weeks, the conversations between Alice and Jack had grown more reflective, heavier with the weight of their newfound acceptance. They had faced the truths about time, about love, and about the inevitable end that hung somewhere in the distance. But there was still something fragile about their tomorrows, something that neither of them could quite put into words. Tonight, as they sat by the fire, the warmth wrapping around them like a familiar embrace, there was a quietness that felt different than before. It wasn't uncomfortable. Rather, it was as if both were listening to the spaces between their words, waiting for something unsaid to emerge. Jack glanced at Alice, his eyes searching hers as if he could see the thoughts she was keeping hidden.
You know, Alice, for all the talks we've had about time, there's still one thing we haven't really discussed. What happens to us? What happens to the people we leave behind?
The people we leave behind, you mean our families or us when one of us is gone?
Both, I guess. We've spent so much time thinking about how to live with the time we have left, but what about after? What do we leave behind, Alice? What's our mark on the world when we're no longer here?
Question: do you believe that the legacy we leave behind is defined by what we've done or by the people we've loved? A. Our legacy is defined by the people we've loved. That's what truly lasts. B. It's what we've done that defines us, the impact we've had on the world. C. Both. Our legacy is a blend of the lives we've touched and the things we've accomplished.
Answer A. Our legacy is defined by the people we've loved. That's what truly lasts. I think it's the people we've loved that define us. Everything else fades eventually. Our accomplishments, our work. But the love we give, the connections we make, those live on in the hearts of the people we've touched. That's what matters in the end, isn't it? Not what we've done, but who we've been to the people we care about.
I think I've always believed that too. Maybe that's why I've spent so much time focusing on the relationships I've built. At the end of the day, it's the love we've shared that stays long after everything else is gone. But Jack, do you ever wonder if we've done enough? If we've loved enough?
I used to, but now I don't think it's about how much we've loved. It's about the depth of it. And what we have, that's enough. It's more than enough.
The firelight flickered gently, casting shadows across the walls. Outside, the trees stood still, their bare branches outlined against the night sky. Alice set her knitting aside, her hands resting in her lap as she looked into the fire, her thoughts moving to the people in her life she would leave behind: friends, family, and Jack.
I've been thinking about my children, about how they'll cope when I'm no longer here. We've built something strong, Jack, but I can't help but worry about the people we'll leave behind. How do we make sure they're okay, that they know how much they've meant to us? Question: do you think it's important to leave words or messages for the people we leave behind, or should they already know how we feel? A. It's important to leave words. Sometimes people need to hear those things when we're gone. B. They already know how we feel. Words won't change that. C. Both. Sometimes we need to say the things we've left unsaid, even if they already know.
Answer C. Both. Sometimes we need to say the things we've left unsaid, even if they already know. I think it's a bit of both. The people who love us, they already know how we feel, but there's something about hearing those words, about having something tangible to hold on to when we're gone. It's not about changing anything. It's about giving them something to carry with them, a reminder of the love that's always there.
I like that. Maybe it's not about saying something new, but giving them something to hold on to, a way to stay connected even when we're not here. I think that would give me peace, knowing I've left something behind for them to remember me by.
The house felt warmer now, the coldness of the outside world forgotten as they sat together, sharing the thoughts that had weighed on them for so long. Jack reached for Alice's hand, and for a moment they sat in comfortable silence, the crackling of the fire the only sound in the room.
Jack, I've been thinking, when the time comes, I don't want to be afraid. I want to face it knowing that I've said everything I needed to say, that I've done everything I could to make peace with it. Do you think we can ever be truly ready?
I don't know if we can ever be fully ready, but I think we can get close. It's not about knowing what's going to happen. It's about knowing we've lived fully, that we've loved fully. That's how we make peace with it.
Question: do you believe it's possible to make peace with the end, or is it something we can never truly accept? A. Yes, it's possible to make peace if we've lived and loved fully. B. No, the end is something we can never truly accept, no matter how we prepare. C. We can find peace, but there will always be a part of us that struggles to let go.
Answer A. Yes, it's possible to make peace if we've lived and loved fully. I think it's possible to make peace as long as we've lived fully and loved deeply. It's not about denying the fear or the sadness. It's about knowing that we've done everything we could to make the most of the time we were given. That's where peace comes from, I think, from knowing we didn't hold back.
Then I think I'm ready. Not right now, of course, but when the time comes, I'll be ready. Because we've lived fully, haven't we? We've loved fully.
The fire had burned low, but the warmth lingered in the room, wrapping around Alice and Jack like a soft embrace. The night outside was still, the world quiet and at peace. They sat together, their hands intertwined, no longer afraid of what lay ahead. The future, once uncertain, now seemed softer, fragile, but full of meaning.
We have, and when the time comes, I'll be ready too, because we've built something beautiful together, something that will last, no matter what.
Yes, something that will last.
And with that, the unspoken truths they had carried for so long were finally shared. The night deepened, but inside, their love remained constant, quiet and strong, ready to face whatever tomorrow might bring. And so, with their hearts laid bare, Alice and Jack found peace in the fragile tomorrow, knowing that the love they had built would endure long after time had passed them by. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart, Part 7, The Fragile Tomorrow.
Legacy, the lasting impact of love passed on to those left behind. Connection, the unbreakable bond between people even after they're gone.
Preparation, the act of facing the inevitable with courage and honesty. Acceptance, the realization that some things are beyond control, but peace can still be found.
Remembrance, the way love lives on through memories, keeping those we've lost close forever.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 8, Threads of Memory. The snow had melted, leaving the world outside Alice's home damp and quiet, as if winter itself was taking a final breath before spring arrived. Inside, the warmth from the hearth was more symbolic than necessary, no longer to fend off the cold, but to serve as a familiar companion in the twilight hours they had come to share. Alice sat near the window, gazing out at the soft gray sky, her fingers running absent-mindedly over a quilt she had started years ago but never finished. The unfinished squares seemed to echo the thoughts swirling in her mind, fragments of memories, moments that were both behind and ahead of her. Jack entered the room, his movements slower these days, but steady. He had been spending more time at Alice's house, their days blending into each other, as if the past, present, and future had all collapsed into a single endless moment. Yet, something hung in the air between them tonight, a sense that while they had spoken about the future and the end, there was still something left unsaid.
I remember you starting that quilt ages ago. I always thought you'd finish it someday.
I always thought I would too, but life got in the way as it tends to. There were always more pressing things to focus on. Now, I'm not so sure I'll ever finish it.
Does it matter if you finish it? Or is it enough that you started, that each stitch you made was part of your story?
Question: do you believe that unfinished things like this quilt hold meaning, or is it only the finished product that matters? A. Unfinished things hold meaning, they reflect the journey, not just the outcome. B. It's the finished product that matters, it's what you complete that tells your story. C. Both have meaning, the process is important, but finishing something gives it purpose.
Answer A. Unfinished things hold meaning. They reflect the journey, not just the outcome. I think unfinished things hold their own kind of meaning. They tell the story of who we were at the time, what we were going through, and the choices we made along the way. Sometimes, life doesn't give us the chance to finish everything, but that doesn't make it any less important. It's the journey that counts, not just the end result.
I like that. Maybe this quilt doesn't need to be finished to mean something. It's a reflection of the time I've lived, the things I've experienced. It's imperfect, but it's real.
Like all of us, I suppose, imperfect but real.
The fire crackled gently in the background as the room filled with a peaceful silence. Alice set the quilt down beside her and looked at Jack, her eyes soft with an understanding they no longer needed words to express. Yet, despite their shared peace, there was still a weight between them, one last conversation they both knew they had to have.
Jack, we've talked so much about the time we have left and what comes after. But what about the things we'll leave behind, not just the memories, but the physical things, like this quilt, like the letters we've written? Do you ever wonder what will happen to those things, who will find them, and what they'll mean to the people who come after us?
I've thought about it. The things we leave behind, they become part of someone else's story, don't they? It's strange to think that something as small as a letter or an old photograph can hold so much meaning for someone else, someone who may not even know us.
Question: do you think the objects we leave behind carry the same weight as our memories, or do they lose their meaning without us? A. Objects carry weight because they're tied to our stories. They don't lose meaning. B. Objects lose their meaning without us. Memories are what really matter. C. Objects can carry meaning, but only if those who find them understand their significance.
Answer: C. Objects can carry meaning, but only if those who find them understand their significance. I think objects can carry a lot of meaning, but it depends on who finds them and what they understand about them. A letter might just be words on a page to some, but to someone who knows the story behind it, it can hold a lifetime of meaning. It's not the objects themselves, but the context we leave behind that gives them their weight.
I suppose that's true. Maybe that's why I've kept certain things over the years, because they remind me of the stories behind them. Even if no one else knows their meaning, they mean something to me. But I wonder, will anyone remember us after we're gone, or will the things we leave behind just fade into the background of someone else's life?
The light from the fire flickered, casting shadows that danced across the room. Outside, the sky was darkening, the world preparing to slip into night. Jack sat quietly for a moment, his hand resting on Alice's as they both considered the legacy of the physical and emotional remnants they would leave behind.
I don't know if anyone will remember us, at least not in the way we remember ourselves. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not about being remembered exactly as we were. It's about the imprint we leave behind, the way we've touched people's lives, even if they don't know the full story.
Question: do you think it's important to be remembered as we were, or is it enough to leave an imprint even if the details fade? A. It's important to be remembered for who we truly were, not just an imprint. B. Leaving an imprint is enough. The details don't matter as much as the impact we made. C. Both. We want to be remembered, but we should also accept that the details will fade.
Answer: B. Leaving an imprint is enough. The details don't matter as much as the impact we made. I think it's enough to leave an imprint. The details of who we were, they'll fade with time, but the way we touched people's lives, that stays. It's not about being remembered for every little thing we did. It's about knowing that we made a difference, even if the specifics get lost along the way.
I think I can live with that, knowing that in some way we've left a mark. Even if no one remembers all the details, they'll remember the feeling we gave them. That's enough for me.
The room had grown dim, the last light of day slipping away as the fire burned down to glowing embers. Jack and Alice sat quietly, their hands still entwined, as the weight of their conversation began to settle around them. They had come to terms with the fragility of time, the importance of love, and the legacy they would leave behind, not in the objects or the details, but in the connections they had made and the lives they had touched.
So, what do you say? Should we keep stitching our stories together, one piece at a time?
Yes, one stitch at a time, and even if we never finish it, that's okay, because every moment we've lived has been part of something bigger than us.
The fire crackled softly, filling the room with warmth and light as they sat together, knowing that even in the unfinished moments, there was meaning. Their stories, woven together like the threads of Alice's quilt, would live on, carried forward by the love and memories they had shared. And so, in the quiet of the evening, Alice and Jack stitched the final threads of their shared story, knowing that even in the unfinished moments, they had left a lasting imprint on the world around them. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart, Part 8, Threads of Memory.
Reflection, the act of looking back on life's moments and understanding their significance. Legacy, the lasting impression left behind even when the details fade.
Imprint, the subtle mark one leaves on the world through love and connection. Continuity, the thread that ties the past, present, and future together in one shared story.
Symbolism, the meaning we find in objects, memories, and moments that represent something greater than themselves.
Whisper of the Heart, Part 9, Fading Light. The days were growing longer now, with the first signs of spring peeking through the frost-covered ground. Alice had opened the windows to let the fresh air in, the scent of thawing earth and budding flowers filling the room. Life, it seemed, was slowly returning to the world outside. Inside, however, the mood between Alice and Jack had shifted once again. The conversations they had shared over the past few months had given them peace, but there was a new tension, subtle yet undeniable, like the fading light of a candle nearing its end. Alice sat by the window, her hands resting on her lap, the quilt she had been working on still unfinished beside her. She watched as a pair of birds fluttered near the budding tree outside, their movements a reminder of the life that continued beyond the walls of her home. Jack was seated nearby, lost in thought. His presence, once so solid and reassuring, now felt more fragile, as if something had changed, something neither of them had wanted to confront.
Do you feel it too, Jack? The way everything's shifting, even though we're not saying it out loud?
Yeah, I feel it. It's like everything's slowing down, but we're not ready to stop. I guess it's the way things go, isn't it? The light fades, no matter how much we want to keep it burning.
I've been thinking about that a lot, about how we can feel the end coming even when it's not quite here yet. Do you ever wonder what it'll be like when we're not here anymore? How the world will keep moving without us? Question: do you believe that the world will feel different without us, or will it continue just the same? A. The world will keep moving, unchanged, it's bigger than any of us. B. The world will feel different to those who knew us, but it won't stop. C. The world will be the same, but our absence will leave a quiet space behind.
Answer C. The world will be the same, but our absence will leave a quiet space behind. I think the world will keep going, just like it always does, but for the people who knew us, there will be a space, a quiet space where we used to be. It won't stop anything, but it'll be felt, like a room that's suddenly empty, even though the house is still full of life.
A quiet space. I like that. It feels honest, doesn't it? We're not expecting the world to stop for us, but we're still leaving something behind, a space, a memory, something small but real.
The soft breeze from the open window stirred the curtains, the sound of the outside world drifting in like a distant melody. Jack leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees as if he were bracing himself for something he had been carrying for a long time.
Alice, there's something I've been thinking about. It's been weighing on me, and I think I need to say it before it's too late. We've talked about the end, about making peace with it, But what if I'm not ready? What if I can't accept it the way you have?
What do you mean, Jack? We've spent all this time preparing ourselves, talking about what's to come. What's changed?
I don't know if anything's changed. Maybe it's just that now it feels more real. It's not some distant thing we can talk about calmly anymore. It's here, Alice. It's right in front of us, and I'm not sure I'm ready to face it.
Question: do you think it's possible to ever be truly ready for the end, or is it something we just have to face when it comes? A. Yes, we can prepare and be ready when the time comes. B. No, we can never be fully ready, we just face it when it arrives. C. We can prepare, but there will always be a part of us that isn't ready.
Answer: C. We can prepare, but there will always be a part of us that isn't ready. I think we can prepare ourselves, try to make peace with it, but there will always be a part of us that isn't ready. It's one thing to talk about the end, but another to face it head on. No matter how much we plan, there's always going to be a piece of us that holds on, that isn't ready to let go.
I think you're right. There's always going to be that part of us that wants more time, that feels like we're not done yet. But Jack, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not about being completely ready. Maybe it's about knowing that we've lived fully, even if we're not ready to stop.
The light outside had begun to dim, casting long shadows across the room. The once lively chirping of the birds had quieted, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. Jack stood up, moving to the window where Alice sat, and looked out at the fading light, as if searching for an answer in the shifting sky.
I've been thinking about the light, Alice, how it fades every day, but always comes back. It's not gone forever, just different. Maybe that's how we are too. Maybe when our light fades, it's not really the end. It's just the beginning of something we can't see yet.
Question: do you believe that after the end, there's something more waiting for us, or is this all there is? A. Yes, I believe there's something more after the end, another kind of beginning. B. No, I think this is all there is, and we have to make the most of it. C. I'm not sure, but I like to believe there's more waiting for us.
Answer: C. I'm not sure, but I like to believe there's more waiting for us. I don't know for sure what's waiting for us after this life, but I like to believe that there's something more. It's comforting to think that the end isn't really the end, that it's just another kind of beginning, something we can't understand yet. It helps to think that the light doesn't just disappear, even if we can't see it anymore.
I like that too. Maybe we don't need to know for sure. Maybe it's enough to believe that the light keeps going, even if we don't see it. And until then, we hold on to the moments we have.
The room had grown dim, with only the last remnants of daylight filtering through the window. Jack and Alice stood side by side, their hands gently resting on the windowsill, watching as the sky shifted from gold to gray. The world outside was preparing for night, but inside, the warmth of their love remained steady, like a flame that would not be extinguished.
So, what do we do now? Do we keep waiting for the light to fade, or do we keep living even if it's fading?
We keep living, Jack. Until the very last moment, we keep living.
The shadows lengthened as the last light of day disappeared, but the sense of peace between them lingered, steady and constant. They had faced their fears, their uncertainties, and now, as the evening settled in, they knew they would face whatever came next, together. And so, as the fading light of day gave way to night, Alice and Jack stood together, knowing that even in the darkest moments, the flame of their love would continue to burn, quietly and unbroken. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart, Part 9, Fading Light.
Persistence, the determination to keep moving forward, even when time is running out. Fragility, the delicate balance of life, love, and time as they slowly fade.
Eternity, the hope that something beyond this life continues, even when we don't fully understand it. Transition, the shift from one phase of life to the next as the light fades and something new begins.
Resonance, the lasting impact of love and memories, echoing long after we are gone.
Whisper of the Heart, last part, the final embrace. Spring had finally arrived, breathing new life into the world outside Alice's home. The once barren trees were budding with fresh leaves, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers blooming after the long winter. Inside, however, the warmth of new beginnings felt distant. Alice and Jack had spent countless hours together in the comfort of her living room, knowing that their time was running out but finding peace in the moments they still shared. Alice sat by the window, the sunlight streaming in and casting soft shadows across her face. Jack was beside her, quieter than usual. There was no need for words anymore. Everything had already been said in the quiet exchanges of their hearts. The quilt Alice had been working on for years remained unfinished, folded neatly on her lap, a symbol of the journey they had taken together. Both of them knew that this chapter, their final chapter, was drawing to a close.
It's strange, isn't it, the way time feels now? It's as if we've been living in this in-between space, where everything is both fading and becoming more real at the same time.
Yeah, it feels like time is slipping away, but in a way, it's also slowed down. Like every moment we have left is stretching out longer than it should.
I've been thinking about this quilt, about everything we've left unfinished. Maybe it's okay that some things don't get finished. Maybe they weren't meant to.
Maybe they weren't. But that doesn't mean they didn't matter. Every stitch, every moment, it all means something, even if we don't see it through to the end.
Question: do you think the meaning of our lives is found in what we've completed or in the things we leave behind unfinished? A. Our meaning is found in what we leave behind. Even if it's unfinished, it's part of the story. B. The meaning is in what we complete. Only finished things truly define us. C. Both. What we finish and what we leave unfinished together tell the story of our lives.
Answer A. Our meaning is found in what we leave behind, even if it's unfinished. It's part of the story. I think our meaning is found in both the things we finish and the things we leave behind, even if they're unfinished. The unfinished things aren't failures. They're just part of the journey. They show that we were still living, still trying, right up until the end. It's all part of the story.
I like that. It takes the pressure off, doesn't it? To know that it's okay if some things remain unfinished. It means we were still growing, still becoming. Maybe that's the most important part.
The room grew quiet, save for the gentle rustling of the leaves outside as the spring breeze filtered through the open window. Alice's hands rested on the quilt, her fingers tracing the patterns she had sewn so long ago. Jack watched her, his heart full of quiet gratitude for the time they had shared, knowing that the end was near, but feeling the weight of each moment stretch between them like a tender embrace.
Jack, when I'm gone, I don't want you to feel like you have to hold on to every little thing. I want you to remember me, but I don't want you to be weighed down by my absence. Promise me you'll let go when you need to.
I promise. But I don't think I'll ever really let go. You'll always be with me, Alice. Even when you're not here, you'll still be part of everything I do. That's how love works, isn't it? It stays with you, even after the person is gone.
Question: do you believe that love truly stays with us after someone is gone, or does it fade over time? A. Love stays with us forever. It doesn't fade even after they're gone. B. Love fades with time, though the memories remain. C. Love lingers, but it changes, it becomes part of us, in a different way.
Answer A. Love stays with us forever. It doesn't fade even after they're gone. I believe that love stays with us, no matter how much time passes. It's not just a memory, it's something deeper, something that stays in our hearts. It becomes part of who we are. And even when the person is gone, their love keeps shaping us, keeps reminding us of who we can be.
I believe that too. It's comforting, isn't it, to know that even when this ends, the love we've shared won't. It'll keep going, even after we're gone.
The sunlight outside was beginning to fade, casting a soft, golden hue over the room. Jack and Alice sat together in peaceful silence, their hands intertwined, as they had done so many times before. The moments were slipping away, but the love between them remained as strong as ever. Neither spoke for a long while, content to simply be in each other's presence.
Jack, when the time comes, I don't want you to be sad. I want you to remember all the good things, the love we've shared, and the life we built together. Can you do that for me?
I will. I'll remember all of it, Alice. Every moment, every laugh, every quiet evening by the fire. I'll carry it with me always.
Question: do you think it's possible to hold on to the good memories without letting grief overshadow them? A. Yes, we can hold on to the good and let it carry us through the grief. B. No, grief will always overshadow the good, even if we try to focus on the memories. C. It's hard to separate them, but with time, the good can outweigh the grief.
Answer A. Yes, we can hold on to the good and let it carry us through the grief. I believe we can hold on to the good, even through the grief. It won't be easy, but the memories of the love we've shared will be stronger than the pain. It's those good moments that will carry me through, that will remind me that the love we had was worth every bit of the sorrow that comes after.
That's all I want, Jack. For you to hold on to the good, and I will too, until the very last moment.
The sun had finally dipped below the horizon, leaving the room bathed in the soft glow of twilight. Alice and Jack sat together, their hands still clasped, the quiet surrounding them like a blanket of peace. The weight of the future no longer felt like a burden. Only the love they had shared remained, filling the room with a sense of completion, of wholeness, even in the face of the inevitable.
So, what now, Alice? Do we keep holding on until the very end?
Yes, we hold on, Jack, until the very end, and even after that, we'll still be holding on, just in a different way.
The final light of day disappeared, leaving only the warmth of the love between them to fill the space. They sat together, neither in a rush to say goodbye, knowing that even when the time came, the love they had built would never truly fade. And so, as the night settled in, Alice and Jack embraced the final moments of their journey together, their love shining like the last light of a fading day, enduring, unbroken, and infinite. 5 words related to the theme of Whisper of the Heart. Last part, the final embrace.
Closure, the sense of finality and peace that comes with accepting the end of a journey. Grief, the deep sorrow that accompanies loss, but also the love that gives it meaning.
Transcendence, the way love moves beyond physical presence, lasting even after life ends. Eternal, the belief that some things, like love, never truly fade, even with the passage of time.
Fulfillment, the quiet satisfaction of knowing a life well lived, filled with love and meaning, even as it draws to a close.